In order to explain how my othering project works, I first want to explain how my normal works. This isn't just narcissism looking back at you. This is a picture of my headshot from my graduate student recital. I attended a major music conservatory, and as part of it, I had to learn how to sell myself on paper. And this was a project between a professional photographer, a graphic designer, and me. It makes me remarkably middle class. This is my typical suburban home where I grew up. I've never had a different address. This is where the IRS always seems to find me. This is my car. His name is Hugo. He's paid for. And this is my family's beach house on Emerald Isle. This is my requisite dog. Her name is Liddy, and she is a rescue. She has a lot of anxiety. So what all that motley information pretty much boils down to is the fact that I am remarkably middle class. I'm white, I'm educated, I'm Christian. All of those things spell white privilege. McIntosh talks about in her article about white privilege that one of the major components is the taking for granted that you will always be around people that look like you, that come from the same cultural background as you. That if you have a choice, you can be around those people. So for my othering project, I tried to put myself in 3 different situations in which I was not around people like me, that looked like me, that believed the same things that I did. So I made arrangements to meet with a representative of the Islamic Association of Raleigh to attend Ramadan prayer service at a local mosque. I also attended morning worship at St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church. And then finally, I went to my own church, Sacred Heart Cathedral, for the Spanish Mass to see what kind of diversity was in my own parish. So without further ado, I will get to the Islamic Association of Raleigh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
So for the first part of my othering experience, I met Sister Ali Zelmat at the Islamic Association of Raleigh's mosque. She met us in the lobby, and from the beginning, Sister Ali did everything in her power to set us at ease. To begin with, she wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I was fully expecting someone of Middle Eastern extraction. Sister Ali is white. And that actually gave us some really interesting things to talk about because she's a convert to Islam and I'm a convert to Catholicism. So there was a lot of food for discussion there from the beginning. She started by giving us a tour of the facility, which is quite large. It encompasses a multi-purpose room that doubles as a community center, the 2 large rooms that are used for prayer in the mosque, as well as a K-12 school. It was a very well-appointed school. It was fairly small, as you would expect a private school to be, and during the whole time we were there, Sister Ali was impressing upon us the importance of education in Islam. Every Muslim is expected to be able to read the Quran in Arabic, and you are supposed to have the whole thing memorized by a certain age. So when she converted to Islam, she had to learn Arabic so that she could read the Quran in its original language. They think of that as being the actual word of God. She was also very excited about a small building that she pointed out to us that is located behind the mosque proper. It is used for the preparation of the dead for burial. Up until its construction last year, they basically had to rely on the goodwill of local morticians to allow representatives of the mosque to prepare the bodies. So this is a really big step forward for that community in terms of being able to take care of their own members from birth until death, keeping tradition intact. After we took that tour, she took us to the 2nd floor, where she showed us the women's prayer room. As you can tell, the women's prayer room is actually rather spacious. We were asked to take our shoes off before we entered because they don't like us to track things in on our shoes. Muslims pray in a prostrate position and nobody wants to be laying where other people's, the grime from people's shoes has rubbed off. You can see the TV that allows the women to see the imam downstairs, but on this day, the women were not praying up in this room. They were actually on the main floor. So very soon afterward, a thon was called and we went down to the main prayer room in the mosque. The prayers consisted of 4 cycles of rising and prostration, during which the imam chanted the prayer. And I did ask Sister Ali, she was not praying that day, what this meant, and she explained that that was actually the beginning of the prayer cycle where Muslims go Allahu Akbar, which is God is great, before they go into the verses. I was very impressed by how close people were together. As a Christian, I try to keep 6 inches on either side of me in a pew. They were up on top of each other, and there were actually signs on the wall that said fill in the gaps. And I asked Sister Ali about that, and she explained that the Prophet Muhammad actually made a directive that Muslims should pray shoulder to shoulder and ankle to ankle in order to foster a sense of community, to encourage not only a physical proximity but also an emotional, spiritual, and intellectual proximity, because they're all reciting the same verses in their minds. It's a silent prayer. So that was very interesting. In terms of feeling like an other in the mosque, the only instance that I can think of were the 5 minutes right prior to the prayer. And that was because everybody was in the main room and all the women were in hijab except for me and Rhonda. And we didn't get a whole lot of attention, and certainly none of it was negative attention. There was absolutely no anger. There's just a lot of curiosity. And hijab in Islam is the modesty code. So women are asked to be covered from the neck to the ankle and to the wrists with their head covered. Men have to be covered from above the navel to the knees. And it's to prevent the sexes from being distracted by the attractive qualities of the people around them. And I don't mean to insinuate that I was being objectified in any way. I just think it was just glaringly obvious that one of these things is not like the other, and that was me. Because I didn't have my hair covered, I had it down like it is now, and let's face it, I got a lot of it. So I was very conspicuous. I felt slightly bad, but Sister Ali told me that not to worry about it. I wasn't being disrespectful, and it also wasn't that big of a distraction. As soon as the prayer started, everybody turned their back on me anyway, and I was just kind of like chilling in the back. And so that was interesting. It was the only time I felt like an other. The other interesting thing I found was the diversity within the mosque. I stereotyped when I walked in, which was expecting Sister Ali to be Middle Eastern, which she wasn't. And when I was sitting in the mosque, I was really struck by the different people. There were women that Sister Ali pointed out from Somalia. There were women from Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, different parts of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Pakistani women, and herself. And she's an outlier as well, because she is she's white. She's Western and white. She's fairer than I am. We joked about how she doesn't have to wear sunscreen because of hijab. So it was very interesting to be part of that service, and I really would like to go back for Friday prayer sometime, probably not during Ramadan because space is at such a premium, but I do want to take this brief opportunity to wish everybody at the IAR a Ramadan Mubarak.